It is the year 60 in the future century. Within this timeline, most of mankind has abandoned a ruined Earth to live in space colonies. To keep each colony from fighting wars for dominance, a special tournament known as the Gundam Fight is held every 4 years to decide which nation gains control of all of space for the next 4 years. In the Gundam Fight, each country is represented by a skilled fighter who operates a mobile fighter known as a Gundam, and throughout the tournament, each fighter goes one-on-one with one another until only one fighter remains and is crowned Gundam of Gundams. One such Gundam fighter is Neo Japan's own Domon Kashu, who participates in the Gundam Fight along with his partner Rei Nakamura. Unlike most other fighters, Domon enters the Gundam Fight to find and defeat his brother Kyoji, who is believed to have stolen Neo Japan's experimental machine, the Devil Gundam. Throughout the tournament, Domon will encounter various friends and rivals, meet up with old faces, and face his inner demons as he battles his way to win the Gundam Fight and defeat the Devil Gundam. To celebrate Gundam's 15th anniversary, Sunrise and Bandai decided to do something completely different for the franchise, and what came out of it was Mobile Fighter G Gundam. G Gundam was not only the first Alternate Universe Gundam series, but the most strikingly different Gundam series as well. While most other Gundam shows are more or less real robot shows, G Gundam is a full-blown super robot show, being utterly insane and over the top. The story is more or less like a traditional martial arts story, having themes like love, honor, and courage being the main focal points of the show, rather than war or ideologies. While it may not be as politically driven or war driven like other Gundam shows, it does stay true to a lot of Gundam's themes, which truly makes it a Gundam show at heart. Of course, hardcore Universal Century fans and real robot fans who are used to Gundam being a certain way may not like the overall change in G Gundam, and considering that it is an anime revolving around a tournament, the show may not be appealing to those who aren't a fan of fighting anime. I will say this about G Gundam: the story is an amazing thrill ride with a lot of really clever twists and turns that you don't really expect, and it makes it a really cleverly written tale that would make you wish it didn't end. The casts are all quirky, insane, entertaining, and downright hilarious. The thing about this show is that the personalities of a lot of the characters are based off of racial stereotypes. Examples would be Domon acting like an honor-driven lone wolf, George Desan being a chivalrous knight, Chibity is a cocky American pimp, Master Asia looks and essentially acts like a kung fu master, and so on and so forth. You may think that would hinder their character development, but it doesn't. In fact, each of the main characters develop really well, and they are really easy to connect to. Domon is a rather unique protagonist in Gundam. Unlike most other protagonists in a full-fledged Gundam series, he's already an adult. Despite that, he seems to have some kind of arrogance about himself in the beginning, being rather impulsive and focusing more on fighting rather than those around him. As the series progresses, however, we do see Domon gradually become more humble and kind at heart. His relationship with Rain is hands down the best love story in all of Gundam. The reason why? Well, it's best not to spoil, but I will say that it is very genuine and emotionally driven. Speaking of emotionally driven, aside from Gunbuster, G Gundam was one of the very few anime to make me wallow up in tears. The subtle emotional moments in G Gundam are really touching and magnificent. When it comes down to it, the story of G Gundam is essentially a parody of super robots and martial arts anime as a whole, while at the same time, it stays true to the themes of Gundam. It's paced pretty good and full of mindless fun. Sure, it may be very illogical at times and incredibly cheesy, but we must keep in mind that G Gundam does not operate normally like other Gundam shows. You just won't enjoy the show if you take it seriously, and if you aren't a fan of fighting anime, then G Gundam may not appeal to you. The visuals are pretty well done for a show made in the early 90s. It starts off as average at first, but it gets better as time goes on, especially around the second half of the series. There are some obvious use of stock footage, but do not fear, for it isn't abused as heavily as it was later on in Gundam Wing. The battles play out pretty much like battles you would see in Shonen Jump anime, like Dragon Ball Z or Fist of the North Star, but at a much faster pace, and they are very entertaining to watch. The Gundam fights aren't the only fights that are impressive. The human fights are also pretty intense and over the top, as they should be. I really like the character designs a lot, as they are a nice callback to Super Robot shows and shonen anime of old. As for the Gundam designs, oh boy. This show is infamous for its hilariously bad Gundam designs that are designed to be as racially stereotypical as the characters that operate them. Examples would be Grizzly Gundam looking like a Canadian lumberjack, Gundam Rose looks like Napoleon, Maxter looks like a football player, Neo Kenya's Gundam is modeled after a zebra, and for whatever reason, Noble Gundam looks like Sailor Moon, or to be more specific, Sailor V from the prequel manga to Sailor Moon. Very few Gundam designs in the show stand out to me, with my favorite designs being God Gundam, Shining Gundam, and Master Gundam. In general, the animation was pretty solid. The music is awesome. Some of the background tunes are rather memorable, and the two opening themes, Fly in the Sky and I Trust You Forever, are amazing. The ending themes I thought were okay, but not all that memorable. The Japanese version is okay, but I prefer the dub, mostly because it's funnier. Tomokazu Sakai voices Domon in the Japanese version, and he voiced Vaughn in Escaflowne and Sosuke from Full Metal Panic. Chibity is voiced by Hochu Otsuka, who previously voiced Yazan from Zeta Gundam, and strangely enough, would go on to voice Signal Man from the Sentai show Car Ranger. Sai is voiced by the talented Kappai Yamaguchi, who is best known for voicing Ranma from Ranma 1/2, as well as Usopp from One Piece. The dub has some notable names, particularly Mark Gossa as Domon Kashu, who would go on to voice X in Mega Man X8 and Maverick Hunter X, before retiring to become a doctor. Dave Patet voices Master Asia, and he previously voiced Sigma in X8. Coincidence? The only really bad thing I have to say about the dub is Sai Saishi's English voice, who sounds like a more irritating Frieza. The other thing I personally would have liked is if the characters had accents to fit with their racial stereotypes. Sure, it would be corny, but they were already cheesy and goofy enough, so why not just go all out with it? Aside from that, you can enjoy the series in both languages. While it may be different from the rest of the franchise, I feel that G Gundam stands out on its own right as a Gundam show. It has an amazing story, colorful characters, great animation for its time, and awesome music. Some may see the series as rather goofy and cheesy, but I'd rather be entertained and enjoying myself than be bored to sleep. While UC elitists and real robot fans may despise G Gundam for having a different formula, others like myself would definitely welcome G Gundam with open arms, for it is a breath of fresh air that stands out compared to other Gundam shows. So I must give a fair warning to people when watching G Gundam. Don't expect anything serious because G Gundam is anything but serious. It is ridiculous, cheesy, hilarious, over the top, insane, and kicks logic out the window. It may be a wacky parody of shonen anime and super robot shows, but at its core, it is still definitely a Gundam show. With that being said, Gundam Fight! Ready? Go! Final score, 8 out of 10.